Okay, we're back with our next item. Like in the previous, we had covered the Shoden Kireidoshi. Uh, let me tell you a little bit about the Chuden Kireidoshi because there's a minor difference. And to realize what the difference is, you have to be able to see the Chuden specifics because they got their own specifics. As you all know, Shoden, you're usually the one who's taking the initiative. Chuden is a reaction on an attack. One of the reasons for Chuden Waza, you usually move backwards instead of forwards. This will gain you time and distance actually. So actually, Chuden Waza, you step off your sword. So usually the handle remains and you just step off of it. So that is one of the things you do for Chuden. And there are other specifics, but we're not going over all the specifics for Chuden today. We're just going to cover the Kireidoshi. So like I mentioned in the previous one, I think everybody who's practicing the Shoden Waza, that means everybody from beginner up to Nidan should practice it the Shoden way. Chuden way, well, you need time and experience before you can cover it actually. And you have to make sure that you see the differences between it. And as you all know, when you practice EI for a while, Chuden Waza can be performed properly if you don't have experience in EI. It needs time and it will grow on you and you cannot force it. So you will have to wait. And then certainly you will have the feeling and the insights for the Chuden Waza. Now, like I said, for the Shoden Waza, it all starts with the preparation. So that means that when you there's a slightly difference between Shoden Furikaburi and Chuden Furikaburi. Kaburi, like I demonstrated before, is moving back, going overhead, and when the sword is on top, left hand reaches and cuts. For Chuden Furikaburi, after you've done your initial Nukitsuke or Nukeuchi, doesn't matter actually, you're gonna do another way of Furikaburi. Your Furikaburi is moving back, and now you will see that actually the wrist is turning inside a little bit so that the knuckles are facing towards your head. So actually your Furikaburi for Chuden is more or less ukenagashi. So that means that your sword is in a different angle because this is actually a hidden ukenagashi. And when you go overhead, you will see that the sword is downwards much more. Now, like I said before, you have to move forward with the hands. You cannot move upwards. To move forward from this position, it's impossible because otherwise the mine will bump my head all the time. The only way you can do this is to change your timing of flick. It all has to do with timing. You ask somebody, what's the most important thing in EI? Well, that's easy. It's timing. That's the most important thing, and one of the most important things to do. Time, essence. So when you perform your Furikaburi in the Nukenagashi type, the left hand reaches. Now I'm going to make the flick already up here. And I can still move forward. If I flick too late, I bump. So I have to make the flick and still move forward. It always has to go forward. You travel forward with the hands. So for Chuden, different type of ukenagashi. As soon as the left hand grabs, it flicks and cuts. So time is different. But we're not going to discuss timing this time. The most important thing for you is to realize that it's different. It's more ukenagashi type, and then flick sooner and move forward. Flick forward. So the flick comes more So you flick already behind, and then swing the hands forward. Shoden, go, flick at full extension. Chuden, flick before you extend. So that's the main difference between Shoden and Chuden Waza. Okay, so that's the part of Chuden Waza. And this goes as well for the seated version as for the standing version. As you know, we do it seated. Now you will see that if you cut in a seated position, the sword will apparently looks like it goes deeper, but it isn't. It is just because of a change of body. When you make, this is actually an addition that has to go for the Shoden Waza. Like I said before, you cut, you move, sword stops level with the floor. Now when you go down, you will see that it looks like the sword is deeper, but it's the same. Cut. So in this case, it's because of a changed body posture. Because if you move up from the same position, you will see that nothing has changed. It's all the same. Same goes for Chuden Waza. It looks deep. Sometimes, well, you cannot trust your own eyes. Nothing always is what it seems to be. So that's the same for EI. Sometimes it looks different than it actually is. Okay. See you on the next episode.